Hello everyone, welcome back to Spiritual Morsels. In the previous episode, we saw why Jesus was born in Bethlehem and not in any other part of Israel, especially why not in Jerusalem. And the title was Why Bethlehem? That was part 1. And we saw that the reason why Jesus was born in Bethlehem was God's faithfulness towards Bethlehem, a prophecy that God made towards Bethlehem 700 years before Jesus was born through Micah the prophet was being fulfilled. Today we are going to look at part 2 of that same thought. Why Bethlehem? You see, we already saw the details of why God took Joseph and Mary from Nazareth all the way to Bethlehem. They had to travel for 4 days, a distance of 90 miles overnight, just because God wanted to fulfill his promise towards Bethlehem, the promise that he made through the prophet Micah in Micah chapter 5 verse 2. But the truth is, that particular prophecy that God made towards Bethlehem through Micah was itself the fulfillment of another promise that God made to a man personally many years ago, before Jesus was born, approximately 1,000 years ago. God made a promise to King David. David was a man after God's own heart. And in 2 Samuel chapter 7 verse 16, God speaks to David when God is pleased with David. And he says, and your house and your kingdom. Notice the words that God is using here. Your house and your kingdom shall be made sure forever before you. Your throne shall be established forever. This is a promise that God is giving to David. God says, your house, I will make sure it will be established. I will make sure that the King of Kings, the Anointed One, will be born in your house. What is David's house? 1 Samuel chapter 16, we see when Samuel goes to anoint David, where does Samuel go? He goes to Bethlehem. David belonged to the small town of Bethlehem. Now, for those who live in small towns, they know the moment you enter your town, you feel like this is my home. You don't even have to reach your house. I have experienced this because my grandfather's house is in a small town, and the funny thing is, the name of the town and the name of our house, the family name, it's all the same. So the moment you enter the town, you feel like you reached home. That's exactly what David felt. The moment Samuel reaches Bethlehem, all the people of Bethlehem come to Samuel and ask him, is everything okay? Why did you come here? Because they all know each other. It's a small town. And so God makes this promise to David 1,000 years before Jesus was born. And the reason God made Micah prophesy to Bethlehem was just an affirmation to the promise he made to this man of God. Now the interesting thing is, in Luke chapter 2, we saw last week how Joseph and Mary had to go from Nazareth to Bethlehem because of the decree made by Caesar Augustus. But over there it says, for Joseph was from the town of Bethlehem and from the house of David. Joseph was from the family lineage. He was a direct descendant of David himself. Now, Joseph as a human, he could have assumed that, the King of Kings, the Son of God, when he chose to be born into this world, why did God choose me to take care of his son? Maybe I am better than many others. Joseph did not think like that, because he was a very humble man, is what the word of God says. God was pleased with Joseph because of his humility. He did not think that I am smart or I am more capable than any of the other men. That is the reason God selected me. But rather, Joseph knew deep within his heart, this is not me. This is not my smartness. This is just because God is faithful to the promise he made to my forefather David. My dear brothers and sisters, many times in life, when we achieve something, when we reach great heights or we reach certain positions or when God takes us to certain places, we kind of start assuming that, oh, I am better off than others, or I have achieved this with my smartness. I am good. I am smart. But the truth is, the Word of God says we need to be humble. The moment we start thinking like that, something creeps in, and that is called pride. In James, the book of James in the New Testament, chapter 4, verse 6 says, God resists the proud, but He gives grace to the humble. The moment we start thinking such thoughts, pride creeps in, and then you know what happens? Just imagine going somewhere, trying to walk somewhere, and something resisting you. Now imagine if you try to go ahead in life, no matter what you try, you're not able to reach there because God Himself is resisting you from moving forward. But the same verse says, if you are humble, God gives grace to the humble. The grace, the word grace over there literally means that you are trying by your own strength to do something, and God sees you. If He sees you a humble person, God would come, carry you and take you through. He will carry you and push you forward. That is God's grace. God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. My dear brothers and sisters, in 2024, even as we are going to enter into the new year, I just want to encourage you, like Joseph, let's stay humble. Let's remember that all that we have achieved, or whatever we are, wherever we are, it's God's faithfulness to my fathers and my forefathers, because they were faithful before the Lord. It's not because what I am or who I am. It is God's faithfulness. It's God's fulfillment of His promises that He made in my life and in the life of my parents and grandparents. If we remain humble, God will give us grace to achieve great heights in 2024. I pray that God gives us the grace to stay humble and at the same time honor God in all that we do, and He will take us through. God bless you.